Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Erick Erickson here across the United States of America. I happen to be delighted to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, as always, text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. You can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, all the stuff you want while you're traveling. At the end of the week, I will step out on Friday, but then I will be back on Christmas Eve for the annual Christmas Eve show. We'll re-air that on Christmas Day. For those of you who miss it, you'll be able to get into the live stream as well, the 24/7 stream. Now, when the show starts, just so you understand, if you text Erick to 33777 and you get the 24/7 stream, from noon to 3, you hear the show live, and starting at 3 p.m., it replays that show until 12 p.m. the next day, so you never have to miss it. And then at 12, it starts over with a new show. On the 24th and 25th, we'll have the Christmas show starting at 12 p.m. on the 24th. We've got to begin with the drones. The drones continue to be a story. Now, there's a trend I've noticed here. There are some malleable malcontents who insist if you're a normal non-conspiracy theorist, you are actually working for the establishment or a member of the one world order. And I have concluded that the people who say that stuff are actually the most useful idiots of the one world order establishment stuff. Just when you come out and you say, here are the plausible scenarios, and the guy says, no, you establishment hack, you're a member of the one world order. I mean, the guy sounds crazy and people immediately dismiss him, which makes him very useful to the one world order. But no, I'm sorry if you're listening to Charlie Kirk and others who are telling you that these drones are some sort of one world government plot for mind control and the like. We don't need Alex Jones or Art Bell here to explain this. I want to play for you Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, who does not admit what people in New Jersey are seeing are American, but he does admit it. He doesn't, but he does. Follow along here. This is the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Are there any legitimate national security concerns here? For example, have you seen any evidence at all, especially in these recent sightings in the Northeast, of any kind of foreign involvement?
We have not seen any foreign, we know of no foreign involvement with respect to the sightings in the Northeast. And we are vigilant in investigating this matter, the Department of Homeland Security, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the lead.
One more clip. This again, his conversation with George Stephanopoulos yesterday.
President-elect Trump has put out a post on this. I want to put it up on the screen right now. He says, mystery drone sightings all over the country. Can this really be happening without our government's knowledge? I don't think so. Let the public know and now, otherwise shoot them down. Your response?
Well, we are aware of the drone sightings, as I've said. I think there are more than 8,000 drones flown every day in the United States. With respect to the ability to incapacitate those drones, we are limited in our authorities. We have certain agencies within the Department of Homeland Security that can do that, and outside our department. But we need those authorities expanded as well.
We need those authorities expanded. Now, it wasn't just him. We've got Representative Maliotakis. She is from Staten Island, New York. Hang on, here we go. This is her.
20 years ago, they filmed War of the Worlds on Staten Island. And now we feel like we're characters in that movie. What is happening is outrageous. Thousands of drones and unmanned aerial systems flying above us, and our government is not telling us who's operating them and for what purpose. I don't believe that the United States of America, with its military capabilities, does not know what these objects are.
I would agree with the Congresswoman. Now, here is Congressman Mike Walz of Florida. He's the incoming national security advisor to the president. He's on Face the Nation, Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. Listen to this conversation.
Do you think the public should be concerned about these reported drones all over the East Coast? And have you the need for more authority to deal with them?
Well, I think what the drone issue points out are kind of gaps in our agencies, gaps in our authorities between the Department of Homeland Security, local law enforcement, the Defense Department. I think Americans are finding it hard to believe. We can't figure out where these are coming from. And I can tell you from the Defense Department standpoint, they're focused on bombers and cruise missiles, and it's pointing to gaps in our capabilities and our ability to clamp down on what's going on here. And we need to get to the bottom of it. And I think the Biden administration is working to do that.
He thinks they're working to do that. Let's go back to the very first clip. Very first clip. Secretary Mayorkas gets this question from George Stephanopoulos about the Northeast. Let's listen.
Are there any legitimate national security concerns here? For example, have you seen any evidence at all, especially in these recent sightings in the Northeast, of any kind of foreign involvement?
We have not seen any foreign, and we know of no foreign involvement with respect to the sightings in the Northeast, and we are vigilant in investigating this matter. The Department of Homeland Security, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the lead.
Notice he highlights the Northeast and says we know of no foreign involvement. I have a question for you. Here's why, first of all, he designates the Northeast, because in Virginia, there have been drones over military installations. They haven't been over civilian air corridors. They've been over military corridors, and we do believe they're Chinese. And in fact, 2 Chinese spies have been arrested for launching drones in the Virginia military corridor. And you know what those drones didn't do? They didn't blink their lights. The drones in New Jersey, oddly enough, are confining themselves to airspace corridors and blinking their lights, the red light and the green light on the wings. Now, if these were the Iranians or the Chinese, don't you think they'd turn the lights off so nobody would be seeing them unless they want to cause some sort of mass panic? But if they wanted to cause that mass panic, surely they wouldn't just be flying them in the air corridors. I suspect the reason the government is behaving the way it is because they're ours. To be sure, I do believe and have reason to believe, after talking to a number of pilots who listen to this program and have seen the videos, that some of the sightings are actually civilian or commercial aviation, that some people are seeing planes. In fact, one of the pictures of a supposed drone had a lot of purple, orangey, yellow, and red in it. That's a Southwest jet. But some of them are not. Ben Domenech is the editor of The Spectator, the U.S. edition of The Spectator. Longtime friend. I would not be doing what I'm doing in life but for Ben. And he highlighted this on his Twitter account. It is a press release from June 1st, 2023. The National Aerospace Research and Technology Park signs cooperative research and development agreement with U.S. Transcom, U.S. Air Force Air Mobility Command, and ACES. The agreement opens a test corridor stretching from Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst to Dover Air Force Base, linking to New Jersey's Aviation Innovation Hub in Atlantic City. An agreement to create a test and evaluation corridor for the development of uncrewed aerial systems and automated advanced air mobility technologies was recently signed by officials representing U.S. Transportation Command, Air Mobility Command of the National Aerospace Research and Technology Park, and the Atlantic County Economic Alliance. Quote, this agreement is a significant accomplishment and will demonstrate the NARTP's ability to facilitate aviation research, said the National Aerospace Research and Technology Park Board Chairman Mark Lobin, retired Air Force Major General and American Airlines captain. Under the terms of the Cooperative Agreement and Development Agreement, or Cooperative Research and Development Agreement, the parties will cooperate to develop a prototype, dual-use U.S. East Coast test and evaluation corridor for the demonstration, development, and evaluation of military, commercial, academic, and federal government unmanned aerial systems technologies with future application to strategic airlift capabilities of the Air Force. The unmanned aerial systems are often referred to as drones. And the automated air mobility involves the use of electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft to move people and cargo between places not easily served by other modes of transportation. Both technologies are being developed rapidly by government and military agencies and private industry, and the testing corridor will help to safely integrate them into the national airspace. The ability of the evaluation corridor between Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey and Dover Air Force Base in Maryland allows the rapid assessment of technical and operational concepts for the unmanned aerial craft and to develop measures of value in operational scenarios. What makes the designated airspace a dual-use corridor is that the agreement facilitates the launching and landing of civilian craft from non-Department of Defense sites within the corridor, including the research park. Many of the tests and experiments envisioned would only be possible with a designated corridor that runs through New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. Guess where the sightings are happening? New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. So why aren't they telling us? Well, my friends, you need to be familiar with Robert Conquest's 3 laws. Everyone is conservative about which he knows best is number 1. Number 2, an organization not explicitly and constitutionally structured to be right-wing will sooner or later become left-wing. And number 3, the rule in question. The behavior of any bureaucratic organization can best be understood by assuming it is controlled by a cabal of its enemies. They're not telling us because they're bureaucrats. The Department of Defense contractors in 2023 released a press release literally stating that in 2024, they would begin flying drones over New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, advanced prototype drones. And guess what? In 2024, in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, advanced prototype drones are being flown just as they said. So why then aren't they telling us? Ben Domenech has a guess based on how they're parsing the statements, and we have to go back to Alejandro Mayorkas's other statement to George Stephanopoulos.
President-elect Trump has put out a post on this. I want to put it up on the screen right now. He says, mystery drone sightings all over the country. Can this really be happening without our government's knowledge? I don't think so. Let the public know and now, otherwise shoot them down. Your response?
Well, we are aware of the drone sightings. As I've said, I think there are more than 8,000 drones flown every day in the United States. With respect to the ability to incapacitate those drones, we are limited in our authorities. We have certain agencies within the Department of Homeland Security that can do that and outside our department. But we need those authorities expanded as well.
They, 1, don't have the authority, and 2, they really don't want you shooting down these drones. So they're passing the buck, saying, oh, we would love it if Congress would pass a law. Congress passing laws. What a novel concept. Allowing people to shoot these. People are about to start shooting them down. I guarantee you they're actually flying high and fast, and they'd be hard to shoot down. They look lower than they actually are. These are test drones. They're drones. They're not enemy aircraft. They're not enemy drones. They're our drones. And the idiot bureaucrats aren't saying anything because they're idiot bureaucrats who, at this point, They do need to say something. They're causing a panic up the eastern seaboard. It's time to be forthright with the American public with what's happening, that these are ours, not enemies. But after you've had several members of Congress from the area make fools of themselves, claiming it's a secret Chinese Iranian plot, you'll be exposing powerful members of Congress as being idiots if you do it, which makes it even harder to want to get out there and tell the truth. Greetings, welcome. Yes, you can call in, and you can also text the word Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777 if you would like to be on the show. If you text ARMY to 33777, if you'll sign up to our activist network, we're going to start sending out emails to folks in areas where we're trying to get on radio stations. We're in talks, and would just love to have you be a friendly voice on our side. Y'all, the WNBA is a garbage institution that relies on bullying people into watching them. And one of the owners was on CNN talking about how she can't understand why Caitlin Clark got recognized for being such an iconic basketball player. It should be all of the WNBA, and pointed out that her team's attendance was up 30%. Do you know why this woman's team was up 30%? Because her team played Caitlin Clark's team twice. And in the resulting ticket sales to see Caitlin Clark, her team skyrocketed in attendance. That's all. That's all it is. But Caitlin Clark is a white heterosexual, and so she's got to be bullied and shamed by these grifters. It's just pathetic to watch the WNBA. Nobody goes to the games, and it relies on guilting you into watching them. Now, Swiss America doesn't want to guilt you into using them. They want you to be aware of a secret war on cash that's going on, and they want you to be paying attention to it. With the bank turmoil out there and interest rates where they are, Swiss America's been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they're warning people about the secret war on cash. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They can educate you on protecting your assets in their report, The Secret War on Cash. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save you on your retirement and finances. You can get a completely free copy by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency. It's growing. Go read the report, Secret War on Cash. All you have to do is text my name, Erick, E-R-I-C-K, or mention me when you call or text 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Let me go to the phones here. Joe, you're going to be up first today. Welcome to the show. How are you? Thank you. Yeah, so Joe, I'm familiar with that report, and just so we don't panic people, and I do think people would be panicked if there was a missing bomb. What I have read about some of the drones that are being tested from that press release I read is that some of the drones actually do have radioactive detection equipment on them, not to find a missing nuclear warhead in New Jersey, but to be able to test them. Now, here's the wild thing. Learned this when my wife's going through cancer. Individuals going through certain sorts of radiation treatment can trigger nuclear detectors in New York City. There are in New York City on the subways and elsewhere, there are nuclear detectors sniffing essentially for radioactive isotopes that nuclear dirty bombs would release. And these drones are now fitted with the same things, and you can fly them in areas where you know, for example, a hospital is doing radiation treatment and the like, and you can what is the calibrate, that's the word I'm looking for. You can calibrate these drones based on that, and so there actually is some credible speculation that some of the drones that are flying are those nuclear detectors, not to find a bomb we believe is stolen or smuggled into the country, but to actually calibrate their sensors for the future. One of the reasons is Ukraine. They're worried about the Russians sneaking a dirty bomb into Ukraine, and they may allegedly be testing those there. But the larger issue here is we do know the Chinese and Iranians have been flying drones in this country, and the government has been not very transparent. The difference between the current drones we're seeing and those is the Chinese and the Iranians are not flying with their lights on. If my son were here, he could tell us, and I'm sure some of you are very capable. I know I got people for NetJets and FlexJets who listen because they're all sending me emails. I'm not there yet, guys. I want to be. Uh, but the wings on planes have a green light and a red light, and I forget which is which on which side, but many of the drones that are flying have the green and the red lights. The Iranian and the Chinese drones don't, and they're not flying with lights on. They don't want to be seen, but we can hear them flying over. And if the moon is out, you can see them. These drones are flying with lights on as we want to be seen. And then, of course, you do have the hobbyists as well on top of it who are out there flying their own drones. So I've got a DJI Phantom 5 drone. My drone has a GPS sensor built into it, and when it gets near a place I'm not supposed to fly my drone, it lands automatically. But there are hobbyists who build drones without those GPS sensors in it, and they can go wherever. And there are some people who are just out there for giggles, also flying their drones, trying to spark a panic. And in fact, there have been a couple Air Force bases in the country lately that have been flown over by drones. And again, the Chinese and the Iranians, they're not their lights aren't on the drones. They can hear them flying over. If the moon is out, they can see them, but they're not flashing and blinking lights everywhere. The hobbyists, however, aren't smart enough to do what the Chinese and the Iranians are doing, I guess. And they got their lights on, but because they're flying into areas where planes take off and land, the plane's got to shut down until someone can figure out the drone. JD, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show. How are you? Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so JD, I'm glad you brought that one up because that is one of the ones I was thinking of in some of the latest stories that they suspect that was a hobbyist at Wright-Patterson that was flying too close, getting in on all the hype, flying. I got to be honest. So I've got my Phantom 5 drone, and normally what I like to do at Christmas is everybody's houses are decorated. So I like to take my drone up and fly it around the neighborhood at night and video all the Christmas lights. Haven't done it this year. I'm afraid some media is going to shoot it down, thinking it's the Chinese. And this guy at Wright-Patterson apparently was not supposed to be flying in the area. They don't think it was the Chinese. They think it was just some redneck somewhere deciding he was going to get on in the drone action and interfered with the airspace. When that guy is caught, and I suspect they'll catch him, he's going to be up a creek because you're not supposed to fly. We've got an Air Force base near me, Robbins Air Force Base. And if my drone gets anywhere close, it just shuts down. It doesn't fall out of the sky. It lands itself, but nowhere near that or the local airport because it's got the GPS built in, which civilian hobbyist drones are supposed to have that. And if you get one of the DJI ones, the Maverick or the Phantom or some of the newer ones, the Inspire, they've got the GPS system and they don't go near those areas. They just shut down. But also, one of the things to pay attention to with Mayorkas is he wants expanded federal powers. They're trying to use this, again, Democrats never let a crisis go to waste. They want to use federal power to expand federal power. They want to use Congress to give them even more federal power, which I don't think we should want. Terry, I'll take one more call on this. Terry, you're going to be it. Welcome. Right. I don't either. Oh, look, again, Terry, to my point, thank you very much for that. Yeah, never let a crisis go to waste. They want expanded federal power. I don't think that the drones are designed to do it. I think the Democrats are designed to do it. The drones are out there. We had a press release. We're going to be testing drones in this corridor, lots and lots of drones. Here they come, right when they say they're going to be tested a year or so after the press release. It starts happening. Now the Democrats are like, well, we're not going to tell anybody anything. But if you'll give the government more power, we'll tell you everything. No. We shouldn't trust them with that. And the reporters out there are sensationalizing everything. That they just reporters are having a bad one, y'all. The left is having a bad one. I want you to look. We're done with the drone calls, by the way. I got other stuff I got to talk about, including this. ABC News has settled with Donald Trump for $15 million. And the American press corps is melting down over this. Walter Isaacson was the president of CNN at a time, now historian. Isn't it funny how all the historians on TV, the Douglas Brinkleys of the world, the Michael Beschlosses, Walter Isaacson, they always turn out to be very predictably liberal. This is Walter Isaacson on CNBC.
Yeah, I think it's problematic for the ability of the press to cover public figures. This is a case in which Donald Trump is the most public of all figures, and it didn't meet what George Stephanopoulos said, in my opinion, the standard the Supreme Court had brought down, which is actual malice, doing it knowingly that it's false, and doing it to be defamatory.
He's throwing the rape word around for someone that wasn't convicted of rape.
Right. And that's why.
What is it, slander or libel? Ones you say, ones you.
It's in that area where if it's big public figures, you used to have more leeway to
So you don't think that they were worried about a negative outcome if the suit went through? You
I think they definitely were, because juries these days are not exactly going to support the establishment press.
They're absolutely not. Now, you think that's bad. This is MSNBC where they're having a complete meltdown over ABC settling $15 million to the Trump Library. It's going to be the fake news wing of the Trump Library.
The press is in a difficult position. Everyone understands that. That doesn't change the obligation to be straightforward and objective when it comes to Donald Trump.
I would just say, I mean, this feels like it has a real chilling effect. Like, I mean, shout out to the standards department. Okay, standards is always making sure that we are keeping the bar high and substantive and accurate. But what George Stephanopoulos said in that interview, I mean, it seems to hold up with what the judge said after the fact. And now his news organization and himself, George Stephanopoulos himself, is paying $1 million of his own money to the lawyers, and ABC at $15 million. It's insane.
Okay. In a past life, y'all, not only was I a lawyer, but as an associate at my law firm, I worked with the partner Ed Sell III, who represented news organizations. He represented the local newspaper in our city, and he represented Gannett, the broadcasting and publishing giant that owned local TV stations in the area. We did First Amendment law. Here's the rule. If you say something, even about a public figure, that you know to be a lie, and that, for a public figure, accuses them of a felony, you're liable. George Stephanopoulos, in an interview with Nancy Mace, said Donald Trump committed rape. George Stephanopoulos said that. It's not true. It is slander. He accused Donald Trump of a felony. Didn't say he might have done it. He said he did it. And George Stephanopoulos did this based on the judge's post-trial comments, where even the judge got it wrong. And the judge getting it wrong caused George Stephanopoulos and ABC News to pay $15 million. This isn't about bending the knee, and everybody in the press and all the Democrats are talking about bending the knee to Donald Trump. This isn't about bending the knee. You will note that all the people complaining that ABC News and George Stephanopoulos bent the knee to Donald Trump are not saying Donald Trump committed rape. Why? Because they too would be sued and they too would lose. Now, a reporter for the Washington Post last night said, it's just the cost of doing business against Donald Trump. Baloney. As a lawyer who handled these cases, as someone who runs a media company who's been involved in these cases, you do not settle for $15 million in the cost of doing business, particularly in a market where your business is cash-strapped to begin with. You don't pay $15 million to Donald Trump as the cost of doing business. Why do you pay $15 million to avoid going to trial? Because you're afraid of what comes in discovery. You're afraid of seeing the producer's notes and George Stephanopoulos' text messages. You're afraid of having all that stuff revealed. This isn't bending the knee. And again, it's very notable. Every member of the press accusing George Stephanopoulos and ABC of bending the knee are not themselves saying Donald Trump committed rape, because it's not true. And they know they too will be sued. But they want to go after George Stephanopoulos and ABC News for paying money to Donald Trump because they don't think they should. The bottom line, however, is that it was a lie. It was malice because he knew or should have known as a journalist. It flat out was not true, and he did not correct the record. So ABC and George Stephanopoulos are paying to otherwise avoid having to go through discovery where probably worse stuff could be found. And the people in the media who are screaming about it, well, tough. But I notice you've censored yourself, which is the point of the settlement, censoring them from lying about Donald Trump. Now, I want to be honest with you about Vision Computer, because you should go use them if you're looking at building a computer. Now, listen, let me talk to the small businesses out there now, because we're getting to the point where most of you bought your Christmas presents. But you still got until December 31st to make purchases for your company to avoid tax liability. I've done this myself in the past week. Bought some technology to just lower my tax bill. Frankly, I needed the stuff. Might as well buy it this year, offset the tax bill. Now, I'm not your tax advisor, but I'm telling you, you can call Vision Computers today. If you're looking at upgrading your computers for your office, you can call them. They'll build you what you want, what you need. They're going to last, and they'll be your tech support. So your secretary, your assistant, your associate, your junior deputy law clerk, whoever, they'll all get a phone number they can call 15 seconds or less, Vision Computer will be their IT solution, so you don't have to be, nor do you have to have a six-figured salaried person at the company all the time, because Vision can take care of them. You're going to save yourself a lot of money, and you're going to get great computers. If you still need a Christmas present, though, Vision can build you a computer, too, and you get the same 5-star customer service. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you, 404-COMPUTE, or go to visioncomputers.com. Visioncomputers.com. Tell them I sent you if you call them at 404-COMPUTE, and you're going to save some money. You're going to get a great machine, and you get their 5-star customer service where you will get the answer to whatever's going on with your computer faster than a Google search. You call a special number, they answer the phone, they don't put you in call waiting hell. It's a remarkable customer service. Call them at 404-COMPUTE today. Get started with Vision Computers.
It's the
We have some breaking news happening right now. Unfortunately, there appears to be a mass shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. Multiple injuries are being reported. Police say the shooter is down. This is a K through 12 school. Keep those kids and faculty and staff in your prayers. We will keep an eye on the situation again. Press reportings, a mass shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. We are continuing to keep our eye on this story. I will bring you an update as soon as I have some. That's all I know. Donald Trump just had a press conference and vehemently condemned the worshipful take of Luigi Mangione, which I will get into later, as Democrats are still doing the butt, still doing the butt, still doing the he's a was bad, but they're doing it on Blue Sky as well. So a lot of Democrats, progressives, they left Twitter after the election. They blame Elon Musk for Donald Trump's victory. God forbid you give Donald Trump credit for his victory. Nope, they're blaming Elon Musk, and so they decided they must get off the hell side of Twitter and have moved to a site called Blue Sky. And they've turned ultra violent at Blue Sky, wishing death on CEOs of insurance companies and oil companies and wanting to throw anyone off the site who disagrees with them. The hive mind of the left. Historically, what the left doesn't like to acknowledge is mass murder around the world tends to happen from left-wing ideologies. And yes, Hitler was a left-wing ideologue. And you got Stalin, and you got Mao, and you got Pol Pot, all these commies. They wanted to exterminate any dissent. And now you got it in this country. They want to go after healthcare CEOs and insurance CEOs, and you got Democrats saying, "Oh, it's terrible," but I get it. Bernie Sanders just the latest. We'll get into that later. But when we come back, I wish to defend mass deportations. The media sure is all of a sudden concerned about costs of a federal program. It just so happens to be that the cost would be what would it cost to get rid of illegal immigrants. And personally, I don't care what it costs. It should happen. I wish to discuss that with you. But first, I got to tell you, this hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you are interested in buying a building or building a building, if you're interested in a heavy equipment loan for your business, you got good credit, they can move fast. The Frost family's been doing this since the 90s. They've been helping businesses grow. If your business wants to grow, get to the next level, reach out to First Liberty Building and Loan, firstlibertyga.com, firstlibertyga.com. When we come back, mass deportations. Mass deportations, I'm a fan of them. I think we should probably deport a lot more than Donald Trump is going to deport, but he's going to start with the gang members from Venezuela, and that's a good thing. Hello, America. Welcome. It's Erick Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I am delighted to have you. We got a lot of news that is happening out there right now today, and I gotta bring you up to speed on a developing story that we wish was not so. There appears to be a school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin, at Abundant Life Christian School. There are reports of injuries. The shooter is down. Police have scrambled to the scene. We actually don't know any more than this at this time, and I refuse to comment on speculated casualties and injuries in stories like this because so much information comes fast and furious and winds up being wrong. But there are ambulances and police at the scene. This is a K through 12 school in Madison, Wisconsin. I will keep my eye on the story. I will bring you up to speed whenever I get information. In the meantime, if you text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, everything you need to stick around and stick with us even when you're traveling to the holidays. I will be out on Monday next week, but I will be back on Christmas Eve. I don't have a guest host ever on Christmas Eve. Do it myself Christmas Eve, and on Christmas Day, we'll repeat my Christmas show from Christmas Eve. Joby Martin from Big Church down in Jacksonville, Florida, among others, will be joining me on the Christmas Eve show. Looking forward to it. We need to talk about mass deportations because there are a whole lot of people who seem to be very upset at the idea of mass deportations, and I am not one of them. So let me just, at a very basic level, explain this to those of you who cannot believe on mass deportations that I would support this. Our laws have to mean something or not. Our laws have to mean something or not. And one of the laws in this country is that we have a border, and that those who come across into our country illegally are not supposed to be here. And yet, what has happened is in this country, we have allowed a mass migration event into this country, and we have not secured our border. Going back to the earliest days of civilization, borders meant something. Borders have to mean something. If you don't have a border, you're not a nation. The Roman Empire expanded and contracted its border over time. The Romans built Hadrian's Wall and then another wall as well. They ultimately abandoned that wall. Now it was the, I can't remember now, but they retreated back to Hadrian's Wall and kept it till the Romans fled the island Britain. The Chinese famously built the Great Wall of China. Many countries used rivers as their borders and boundaries. Even in this country, as we started, our western boundary for a time began to be the Mississippi River and the Ohio River, and then expanded across into new territories, and finally all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Over time, countries discovered and agreed on lines of latitude and longitude. And latitude and longitude and coordinates and GPS help determine boundaries. But most countries, in most places, the boundaries were determined historically by mountains or rivers, by natural features, but they meant something. And if you crossed over from one kingdom to another, from one land to another, there were repercussions if you went without permission. And only in this country in the 21st century has one party, the Democrats, gotten the idea that the border doesn't matter. The border matters. And now, using their friends and acolytes in the media, as Donald Trump says he wishes to begin mass deportations, now, after flooding the country with all of the illegal immigrants, now they're worried about the cost of getting rid of them. It's going to cost billions, they say. And it's a lie, by the way. It is a lie. You know how I know it's a lie? Because if Donald Trump announces that the roundups are going to begin immediately, guess what's going to happen? Many people will self-deport. They'll pack up and leave. So the cost is a static cost on the idea that you got to round up all the illegal immigrants. But many of the illegal immigrants are going to leave before Donald Trump can find them because they don't want to be put in a detention facility and wait for processing. They're just going to go on their own. But also, so what? Notice that members of the press, they weren't all that concerned about the cost when it came to social services being overtaxed. Let's go back, dare I say, to Springfield, Ohio. Hi, Springfield. Y'all know who the number one midday talk show host is in Springfield, Ohio? You're listening to him. Hi, WHIO. I love you. I'll come visit you soon. Yes, I'm on the radio there in Miami Valley and in Dayton and Springfield and the like. Wonderful people. I look forward to going to see them. And a lot of them listen. And they called. And they talked about the lines at emergency rooms, the backups, the backlogs, about the tax social services, the cost to schools for interpreters. They talked about the costs to sanitation and sewage. This was one of the wilder ones, had multiple people call. It's a real thing. They were overwhelmed with Haitian immigrants, and they said, look, they're not eating the pets. There was no eating of the pets. What there was in Haiti, there's not good sanitation and trash pickup and social services. And so they would just dump their trash, and their trash would get into the sewer system and back up the sewer system, and the costs went up to have to deal with the waste management. They had to find people who could speak Creole, who could go and talk to the Haitians and say, you know, this is America. We have this thing called regular trash pickup. You put your trash in a trash can, and somebody's going to come by once a week like magic before you're even awake, and they're going to cart it all away. Don't throw it down the sewage line. Don't throw it into the ditch. Put it in this bin, and in a week, it'll disappear. It's magic. They had to find people and pay people to deliver the message. The local public health system overwhelmed. Costs go up. And it's not just Springfield, Ohio, where that happened. It happened in New York City. It's happened in Chicago. It's happened in major cities. One of the smartest things Republicans have ever done, and Republicans are a stupid party, one of the smartest things they ever did is they bust the illegal immigrants into blue areas of the country and made them have to deal with them so they could see the cost to the social services, so they could see the cost to the homelessness and housing and crime and all the other issues that went up. And now the Democrats are belly aching about the cost of getting these people out here. How much will we save in social services? How much will we save in law enforcement? How much will we save in healthcare? How much will we save in housing costs? You know, one of the reasons we have a housing crisis among the poor in this country is we're housing a bunch of illegal aliens in houses that could be higher housing American citizens. We have homeless shelters that can't house the homeless, or I'm sorry, the unhoused, because they're housing the illegal immigrants, also known as the undocumented migrant, because the Democrats are too chicken and to say it's an illegal alien. I don't care about the cost. It's the right thing to do. If you keep disrespecting the law, Do not think that's the only law that will be disrespected. When you decide one law is negotiable, don't expect to be the same person to arbitrate which other laws can be negotiated or not. Don't think that you have the power to do that. You don't have the power to do that. When you say the border doesn't matter, Democrats in charge of the country right now, guess what? A lot of people are going to say, well, if they don't think that law matters, I don't think this law matters. Either the law matters or it doesn't. We either have a border or we don't have a border. And I think we should have a border. So round them up and deport them. And by the way, they're not all going to get deported. In fact, Trump's going to deport far fewer than I want him to deport. But he's going to start with the lawbreakers and the people who've already been ordered to deport. You know, a couple million people have already been ordered to deport, and they haven't done so. Those are the first people who are going to self-deport. The ones who know that Donald Trump's coming looking for me because I got an order of deportation. I better go now while I can, or I'm going to be put in a holding cell somewhere down in Texas. And summer is coming, and it's going to be hot. I want you to pay attention to the number of people who think that cost is the big issue. I want you to pay attention to the number of people who think that cost is the predominant concern, not respect for the rule of law, not respect for American citizens, not respect for those who came here legally. They weren't concerned. They tried to dismiss the claims about the gangbangers. They tried to dismiss the claims about the Haitians in Springfield. They tried to dismiss the claims about illegal immigrant crime in New York City. They tried constantly to dismiss all the claims, all the reality, all the truth. They tried to dismiss it all. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's going to cost too much. Who's going to pay for this? Who's paying for them to be here? You and me. Who's paying for the cost of social services? Not them. They're not paying. We are. And the fact that the Democrats and members of the media think this is a compelling talking point, that it's going to cost too much. What they're really worried about is their housekeepers and their landscapers. They're worried about the illegal immigrants that they have put into a second class of serfs in this country. They're worried they're going to have to do their own dishes. They're worried they're going to have to cut their own grass. They don't care about the border. They don't care about you and me. They don't care about our taxes. They don't care about the societal cost. They don't care about any of that. They very selfishly care about themselves, and they can't admit it. And so they have to say, well, it's going to cost too much. It's going to cost you. You're actually going to have to pay someone minimum wage instead of below minimum wage to watch your kids when you're gone to work all day. You're going to have to pay someone actual living wage to cut your grass. Some of the most malcontented racists I know in this country are Democrats who care deeply about illegal immigration because they want a serf class taking care of them for the cheap. They don't want to actually respect these people and treat them like human beings. And you know, if you want to respect and treat someone like a human being, you want that person to also obey your laws. And the first law these people need to obey is respect our borders. Come here with consent. Otherwise, don't come here at all. This isn't hard. Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. I want to go to the phones to Clayton. Welcome to the show, Clayton. How are you? Great. Thank you so much. I've got to just say, my oldest was kind enough to bring me coffee today. It's nice to have a kid old enough to drive. Yeah. So that's a great question, Clayton. I wish that were the case, and it's not. And the reason it's not is because constitutionally, we are actually prohibited from suing states or even the federal government in the U.S. Constitution unless they consent to be sued. And what I personally think Congress should do is Congress can pass a law and say, that any city or state that harbors an illegal alien can be sued by someone who might be a victim of that person. Yeah, I think Congress should do that. Yeah, I vehemently think that Congress is So under the Constitution, we can't sue unless a law is passed giving us the right to sue for something. And this is one of those things where I think Congress can use the supremacy clause under the Constitution and say every state and municipality that harbors illegal immigrants opens themselves to lawsuit. If you're the victim of a crime of an illegal alien, you get to sue the state unless that state takes affirmative steps to cooperate with the federal government. The other thing that I think Congress should do is pass a law, very simple to do. There's historic precedent for it, and say, sorry, you don't get federal funds if you have sanctuary cities or you're a sanctuary state. No federal money for you for anything if you operate a sanctuary city or are a sanctuary state. I think we should be denying federal funds for that. I very much believe it. We've got to deter illegal immigration. We'll take more of your phone calls when we come back. 877-973-7425. First, though, I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank. They actually did me a solid over the weekend. I've got a couple of different bank accounts, and one of them I realized I had taken money from, and I had already cleared it out and moved all the money to Old Glory Bank and had just forgotten to close the account down. Did it by accident, and I was able to move money lightning fast back thanks to Old Glory Bank. They make it so easy. Their app is so great. So I didn't get an overdraft at the old bank, and today I actually called them this morning and closed down that account, took care of everything. Old Glory Bank really is a great bank. They're by conservatives for conservatives. They are super efficient in how they operate. They have a great app, but also, as a conservative, you're never going to be targeted by your bank because they're conservatives too. John Rich, Larry Elder, Ben Carson, people like that. You can get a bank account for your business there as well. They've got checking and savings. They've got competitive rates. They do mortgages. They do lines of credit, home equity. They do car loans, business loans, you name it. All you have to do is go to oldglorybank.com. You can get your account right there online. Oldglorybank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I want to go to the phones to Chris, who's been waiting patiently. Welcome, Chris. How are you? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the Peace of Westphalia came up with in kind of the dividing line as well between ancient times and modern times there. Yes, you're right. It was European concept, but the Europeans like to say it was their concept, but for the very same reason, even in Asia, borders became and oftentimes was territory that had to be defended, and they would pick, particularly in Asia, rivers on which to draw their boundaries between one area and the next, one kingdom and the next. And yeah, it was about defense among other things, but also it very quickly did become, even in Roman times, people who were outside the kingdom versus inside the kingdom, people outside the empire versus inside the empire. And when they crossed over into the border, what rights they had and what liabilities they had coming in. And this concept goes all the way back to the Romans. The Romans, as Chris is saying, they would expand their empire as far as they possibly could, and on many occasions rolled the empire back and then moved forward again over time under different emperors. But when you came into the empire as a foreigner, you were protected under the laws of Rome as a guest within the empire, but you had liabilities as well. And if they wanted you to leave, you had to leave their territory. And that is a modern concept of borders, and it's built on the old concept. But it is about defensible territory and everything, but also it is about as well the identity of individuals within that territory and who those people are and who those people are not. And that matters. Michael, you're going to be up next. Welcome. How are you? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, Michael, listen, I agree with you. The mass migration cost from the left is a talking point, and it is a talking point designed to scare people about fiscal matters. And I just think that people are able to balance these things together. They should be able to balance these things together. It's just it's bizarre to me that no, it's not really bizarre. I shouldn't say that. I understand why they're doing it. They have no other argument. It's bizarre to me. This is the one they decided to settle on. Hey, let's make it about cost. It's not really. I mean, the cost is to Michael's point. Laken Riley murdered by an illegal immigrant who Joe Biden let come into the country. What is the value of her life? What is the value of all the lives of people added up who were taken by illegal aliens? Now, before you call in progressive and you say, what about all the people in this country whose lives were lost by legal people? Well, those people are already here and have a right to be here. How much more do we deal with because of those who have no right to be here and came and Joe Biden let them stay? And it is notable last week, even the New York Times finally was willing to speak on the subject and say that, yeah, there actually is a massive cost to housing, and it's actually keeping wages down. Wages in this country, the New York Times projects, would have gone up higher had we not existed with so much illegal labor in the workforce. No respect for the rule of law. Now, I got to move on. Those of you on the phones, be patient, but I got to talk about this. And I want to say this out of the gate here. I know many of you are not fans of Mitch McConnell for various reasons. I myself been a longtime critic of Mitch McConnell's, and I invited him to come to my gathering this year as a critic of McConnell's. We actually had a great conversation on stage. He has been very kind to me, even though I have criticized him in the past. And it is in large part because we have found some common ground. One is on judges. You may hate Mitch McConnell. You may not wish to say one kind thing about Mitch McConnell, but the reality is you have the Supreme Court you have because of Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell refused to even hold a hearing on Merrick Garland, let alone put him to a vote. Mitch McConnell held the line on Merrick Garland, and then it was Mitch McConnell who pushed through Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett. And on Kavanaugh, let's not forget, when you say, well, any Republican in the Senate would have done that, Trent Lott would not have done it. I was around back in the day when Trent Lott was the majority leader in the Senate. Bill Frist wouldn't have done it. I was around when he was the majority leader in the Senate. Bob Dole would not have done it. I was around. Those three would not have dug their heels in and made a fight about it. They wouldn't have. They always took the path of least resistance. Mitch McConnell dug his heels in on Brett Kavanaugh and said, we will get this man across the finish line. And it was Mitch McConnell who persuaded Jeff Flake and others to vote for Brett Kavanaugh, which is why you have the conservative Supreme Court you have. It was Mitch McConnell who steered the Senate to stay in session and confirm Amy Coney Barrett after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. That was McConnell. Yes, Donald Trump nominated these people, but it is the Senate that also matters, and McConnell leveraged his power as the longest-serving majority leader in the Senate, or longest-serving Republican leader in the Senate, to get his troops in line and withstand the fire. And he cut deals with Lisa Murkowski, and he cut deals with Susan Collins, and back in the day with Olympia Snowe, and others who wavered on these nominees to support them in their races in primaries against other Republicans in exchange for their votes, for difficult votes for members of the judiciary. And we have our judiciary the way we have it, the way you want it, the way you like it, because of Mitch McConnell. So though it may pain you to say anything nice about the man, you should at least consider that. He has a piece in Foreign Affairs. The headline is The Price of American Retreat, Why Washington Must Reject Isolationism and Embrace Primacy. And on this, like with judges, Mitch McConnell and I see eye to eye. The picture at the beginning of this piece is of Chinese soldiers flying the Chinese flag at a military exercise in China. When he begins his second term as president, Donald Trump will inherit a world far more hostile to U.S. interests than the one he left behind 4 years ago. China has intensified its efforts to expand its military, political, and economic influence worldwide. Russia is fighting a brutal and unjustified war in Ukraine. Iran remains undeterred in its campaign to destroy Israel, dominate the Middle East, and develop a nuclear weapons capability. And these three U.S. adversaries, along with North Korea, are now working together more closely than ever to undermine the U.S.-led order that has underpinned Western peace and prosperity for nearly a century. The Biden administration sought to manage these threats through engagement and accommodation. But today's revanchist powers do not seek deeper integration with the existing international order. They reject its very basis. They draw strength from American weakness, and their appetite for hegemony has only grown with the eating. Many in Washington acknowledge the threat, but use it to justify existing domestic policy priorities that have little to do with the systemic competition underway. They pay lip service to the reality of great power competition, but shirk from investing in the hard power on which such competition is actually based. The cost of these mistaken assumptions has become evident, but the response to 4 years of weakness must not be 4 years of isolation. Even though the competition with Russia and China is a global challenge, Trump will no doubt hear from some that he should prioritize a single theater and downgrade U.S. interests and commitments elsewhere. Most of these voices will argue for focusing on Asia at the expense of interests in Europe or the Middle East. Such thinking is commonplace among both isolationist conservatives who indulge the fantasy of Fortress America and progressive liberals who mistake internationalism for an end in itself. The right has retrenched in the face of Russian aggression in Europe, while the left has demonstrated a chronic allergy to deterring Iran and supporting Israel. Neither camp has committed to maintaining the military superiority or sustaining the alliances needed to contest revisionist powers. If the United States continues to retreat, its enemies will only be too happy to fill the void. I got to tell you, and it goes on from there, that sounds like one of my radio monologues. There are people in this country on both sides of the aisle. It is not just the left or the right who want to retreat from the world stage. And the problem is, if you retreat from the world stage, you've just given more space to our enemies and adversaries. There's this idea that, if we would just leave other people alone, they would leave us alone, except that's not true. There's also this idea that, the United States is kind of invulnerable where we are. We've got the Pacific and we've got the Atlantic, we've got Canada, we have Mexico, except the Chinese are using the Mexicans to flood the United States with drugs. The Chinese are coming across the Pacific and the Atlantic through cables to hack our systems. They're also sneaking people across the Canadian and the Mexican border, while also dabbling in Canadian politics to shape a parliament that China wants. There has not been enough attention on the fact that the Chinese and Justin Trudeau's government have collaborated to a degree. The Chinese have interfered in American elections as well, and then the Russians are just as bad. The Russians are not our friends. Vladimir Putin decided to form an alliance with Iran, with North Korea, and with China. They are our enemies. They think we're weak, and they think we're ready to go back to bed. In World War II, it was the Japanese admiral who said he was afraid they had woken a sleeping giant. That sleeping giant is ready to go back to sleep, and it can't. Because if it does, bad things will happen to our interests abroad and at home. McConnell has been vilified by some who wish to retreat from the world as a pawn of China because of his wife's family's interests. It's simply not true. McConnell has been warning for way longer than most people that China was a danger and we needed to treat it as a threat and not as an ally. When all you people hadn't even heard of what most favored nation status was before you got upset about free trade, McConnell was one of the ones suggesting China needed to not have that status anymore. He's right. If I could implore the incoming Trump administration to do one thing, it's to do this: to remember that America first means America in first place. And to be first place in the world, we have to compete in the world. And I would remind President-elect Trump that it was Barack Obama who decided we did not need a military strategy that involved us winning wars in two spheres. The willful idiots of the Obama administration actually came up with a plan that they could cut our military such that we could win one theater while holding our own in the other until we'd won the first one, as opposed to the U.S. military strategy since World War II has always been we need a military capable of winning on two fronts at the same time. That signaled weakness to the Chinese, and it was a signal to Xi Jinping and his predecessors in China that we could be taken. We must reinvest in our military. We must do it wisely. We must do it without the graft and greed and corruption that gives us an F-35 program that we don't really need and isn't really functional. We must be willing to use our money abroad to win friends and influence people who would rather be on our side than their side. Either we're going to lead or we're going to be shoved out of the way. That's McConnell's point, and that's my point as well. There are lots of people who think we can just withdraw from the world. We can't. We are too integrated into the world. We will either lead the world or we will be led around by the nose by China. It is our choice. Decline is a choice. And Mitch McConnell says he refuses to make the choice to decline. None of us should make the choice to decline. Hillsdale College spends a lot of time talking about these things, but right now they want to talk to you about Christmas. And they actually have an English professor on campus who's giving away for free a series of lectures on A Christmas Carol that you can watch at your own pace. You can kind of see what kids at Hillsdale College go through, but also you can do it for yourself and get educated on the background, the meaning, the themes, and the undercurrents of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. You can do it completely for free. It is 6 classes. They're about 30 minutes each. They're videos. You watch at your own pace. They're actually very good. You go to erickforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, erickforhillsdale.com. You sign up with Hillsdale College today, E-R-I-C-K, erickforhillsdale.com. Sign up with Hillsdale College. You can take these classes at your own pace. It's just 6 of them. They're 30 minutes apiece. You'll be the most educated member of your friends when it comes to being able to discuss Ebenezer Scrooge and what it actually all means in A Christmas Carol. And then you can sign up and get in Primus completely free. In fact, you get so much from Hillsdale College completely free. They'd love to give you this course completely free as well. Go to Erick, E-R-I-C-K, erickforhillsdale.com today. Sign up, start a relationship with Hillsdale College. You'll be able to thank me later. Y'all, it's great stuff. This is a great, great, great series on A Christmas Carol. Go to erickforhillsdale.com today. Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson here. We have an update from the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. 3 people have been killed, 7 others have been hurt. The shooter, a juvenile, is dead. The injured victims' conditions are not immediately clear. This is from the chief of police there. Just sad. Now being told actually it's they've now updated since just a few minutes ago, 5 of the people now dead here right before Christmas. A school shooting, an Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. These are the sorts of stories that we hate to bring, but have to bring to you. That's breaking news happening right now. School shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. The suspected shooter, a juvenile, is dead, along with 5 others and several injured. Ugh. When we come back, we will switch gears. We got a lot more to talk about, but first, time is running out for you to order from Omaha Steaks, and they would love to get you an order in at omahasteaks.com. If you go to omahasteaks.com, you can use my name, Erick, E-R-I-C-K, as a promo code at checkout for an additional $30 off your order, minimum order required. Here's the thing, right now at omahasteaks.com, everything is already 50% off. So you're going to save 50%. You're going to get an extra $30 off by using Erick as your promo code at checkout. And you're going to get some deliciousness for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for your colleagues. If you're not sure what to get for someone for Christmas, you got someone who's hard to buy for, get them steak, get them seafood, get them desserts from Omaha Steaks. They have ready-made desserts and sides. They got main courses. They would love to take your order. Go to omahasteaks.com today, omahasteaks.com. Time is running out to get it there in time for Christmas, but you can still do it if you order. omahasteaks.com at checkout. Use promo code Erick, E-R-I-C-K, and you'll get an extra $30 off your order. Get the New York strips. I'm telling you, get the bacon wrapped fillets or the caramel apple tartlets. omahasteaks.com. Erick is your promo code at checkout. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome this week before Christmas. You still got a week to do your Christmas shopping. You better speed it up, though. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, this is the first year I think all of the presents that I have gotten from my family, they all know. Everybody knows. My wife, so if you're in Georgia, or Alabama for that matter. Actually, for those of you listening over in Alabama, particularly the eastern part of the state, it's actually not far for you in middle eastern Middle Eastern Alabama. The mid part of the state on the east side of Montgomery, Callaway Gardens. I was kind of shocked. So our local newspaper here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, did a thing on Christmas light displays in Georgia, and they left out Callaway Gardens. If you've never been to Callaway Gardens, you should consider this is not an ad. This is just legit. They need to upgrade their golf courses. They do. Their golf courses aren't fantastic. They're okay and they're better than they were. They were undergoing renovation. But y'all, this place you can get a cabin. It's like 25,000 acres. There's fishing on the lakes. There's golf. They've got this birds of prey exhibit. They've got a butterfly house where they grow butterflies. You can go in with your kids and see the butterflies. They got some great restaurants in the area. It is a great place to get away if you go to Callaway Gardens. And during Christmas, from Thanksgiving until the 1st of next year, they have this light display, and it is hundreds of thousands of lights. And my wife's birthday is Wednesday. And all she wanted for her birthday was a trip to see the lights at Callaway Gardens. So we're going to go this coming weekend. And so she knows about it. My son, for his birthday, wanted a piano. So he's got it. His birthday was last week. My wife's is this week. And then my son wanted a trip to Las Vegas to see a hockey game for Christmas. And I'm going to take my kid to Las Vegas the weekend after Christmas to see the Golden Knights play. It's a spectacle to see that team play. So he already knows what he's getting. My daughter will be surprised by her gifts, but basically she gave us a list and we bought stuff off her list. I'm the hard one to buy for. I want a golf net and mat. So I've got a golf coach. His name is Kyle Morris. He works north of Atlanta, Cartersville Country Club. If you're looking for somebody to give you lessons, go to Kyle Morris. He's great. You'll have to drive. Those of you from California who are listening to the program, you'll have to drive over here. He's great. Just save some time for me to go. But he told me I need a mat and a net. So that's on my Christmas list. I don't know that I'll get them because I'm buying my dog a Christmas, and the dog is the most expensive present. The dog's more expensive than the piano or the gift or the trip to Las Vegas. Nonetheless, I digress. Your time is running out. Now, the phone number here, 877-973-7425 if you want to be on the program. What I really want for Christmas is more radio stations. I'm going to be getting some. More details on that later, but I want more. I want all the radio stations. That's if you're a praying person, pray for me that I get all the radio stations because I'm getting all these solicitations from NetJets and FlexJets about flying private. I can't afford it. Or the winning lottery ticket tomorrow, the Mega Millions. I'll take the winning lottery ticket too. Have to buy a ticket, but nonetheless. All right, we got to go to Donald Trump. Occasionally, this is why I like doing live radio. You have a set thing you want to talk about, and the news happens, and you gotta pivot. Donald Trump has given a press conference today. SoftBank, the Singapore, I think they're Singaporean or South Korean Singaporean bank, is going to commit to $100 million of new development in the United States once Trump becomes president, already creating jobs he is. He says he does not know if Laura Trump will get the nod from Ron DeSantis in Florida, and he's not super optimistic that she'll be the nominee, and he's okay with that. He's also saying that if members of the Republicans conference in the Senate oppose his nominees, if they got legit reasons for doing so, he's not going to challenge them. That's a open door on opposing Robert Kennedy, though Trump says vaccines are not going away if Kennedy becomes HHS secretary. There's some huge concerns about Robert Kennedy. I myself think he's a horrible human being who should not be anywhere near power. But nonetheless, hopefully the Republicans will kill that nomination. But one of the things Donald Trump said, in stark contrast to so many people, this is Donald Trump on Luigi Mangione.
And what do you make of
Well,
the
I
action
think
around
it's
the
terrible.
suspected shooter? Does that tell you
Yeah,
anything about how
yeah.
people
I think
about
it's a
healthcare?
terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done. It was so bad, right in the back. And very bad, very thing like that. You can't believe that some people, and maybe it's fake news. I don't know. It's hard to believe that that can even be thought of. But it seems that there's
Trump provided no buts, no caveats, no carve-outs, no exceptions. Unlike all the Democrats, one of the latest being Bernie Sanders.
Elizabeth Warren obviously understands killing and murder and shooting somebody in the back is totally unacceptable.
But
what I think has happened in the last few months is that what you have seen rising up is people's anger at a health insurance industry which denies people the health care that they desperately need while they make billions and billions of dollars in profit.
Y'all, King Henry, what was it, the second or the fourth? I can't remember which one. It was one of the Henrys in England. Said, "Who will rid me of this turbulent priest or meddlesome priest?" And he got the Archbishop of Canterbury murdered. Someone wanted to impress the king. And his words provoked murder. We now know Luigi Mangione had no business with that insurance company. He was not a client. He was not an insured. He wasn't. We also know that this insurance company CEO who Luigi Mangione murdered allegedly during COVID used the resources of his insurance company to prop up a lot of hospitals that otherwise weren't going to get paid. And so his insurance company probably kept your local hospital afloat during COVID, leveraged massive amounts of money, told the federal government, pay me back later. Let's just keep the hospitals afloat. And his insurance company did that. He, Brian Thompson, did that. Sound like a monster to you? Kept your local hospital in business, leveraged the funds of his insurance company to make sure that hospitals would stay in business, told the federal government, look, I'll keep a tab, you pay me back later. And the federal government paid him back. Donald Trump is one of the only politicians in America at his level to stand up and not add a but. Said it was a sickness. People cheering on this guy. It's sick. He's absolutely right. Words mean things. And you know what? When Bernie Sanders goes on television and says killing is wrong, but look at all the people upset about healthcare insurance in this country, Bernie Sanders voted to make it worse. Bernie Sanders better hope people don't take him seriously on this and go start shooting up politicians because Bernie Sanders will be a target. God forbid that happen. Do not want that to happen. But if Bernie Sanders wants to add a but, we should say, but Bernie Sanders is one of the people who broke the system. And so is Elizabeth Warren. The Babylon Bee had a story over the weekend. This is the headline from the Babylon Bee. Now, let's not be so hasty to find and assassinate everyone responsible for the healthcare crisis, says nervous Barack Obama. Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. In the wake of the assassination of the United Health CEO, former President Barack Obama stepped forward to calm tensions by reminding Americans not to be too hasty to find and assassinate everybody responsible for the healthcare crisis. In an only slightly nervous statement to the nation, a visibly sweating Obama reminded people not to jump into hunting down and killing everyone who might be considered responsible for causing the terrible state of American healthcare. Quote, now, let's not get carried away here, said Obama, tapping the floor faster and faster as his eyebrow inadvertently twitched. Surely the answer here isn't more violence. After all, we can't just go around slaughtering all the people responsible for our messed up healthcare system, now can we? All I'm saying is let's not be overly rushed about this. Sources report Obama then walked somewhat quickly back to his armored security detail, casting quick glances to his left and right as he went. It's very well done. I mean, if people are going to start targeting individuals for screwing up our healthcare system in the country, the Democrats who voted for Obamacare should be target number one, not health insurance companies who are only operating in the system Obama, Bernie Sanders, and the Democrats designed. But they're not even thinking about that, are they? They're not thinking about the repercussions for themselves. They never think the violence will be directed at them. They always think it'll be at Republicans or at health insurance executives or oil company executives. Their butts are always designed to cover their own butts and no one else. Violence is unacceptable and killing people is always wrong. Democrats seem to never understand where their rhetoric leads us. For multiple years, Democrats called Donald Trump a threat to democracy, a would-be authoritarian, and on MSNBC on a daily basis, they pleaded, will someone rid us of this turbulent presidential candidate? And someone tried to and took off a piece of Donald Trump's ear. And then someone else tried to, hiding in the bushes at his golf course, waiting for him. And someone else tried to from Iran. 3 different assassination attempts. And one we forget about because the person never got onto the field with the gun. But we had 2 different people, one in the bushes at a golf course and one on a roof in Butler, Pennsylvania. That one actually pulled his trigger and came within about a half an inch to an inch of killing Donald Trump because the left kept saying, MSNBC kept saying, Democrats kept saying, who will rid us of this turbulent presidential candidate? And someone tried to. When you keep going on television and saying, killing people is bad, but we understand, but insurance is broken, but the outrage is understandable, Democrats at some point, someone's going to say, isn't this Obamacare? Barack Obama. Yeah, some crazy person's gonna connect dots you don't want connected in the system you yourselves voted for. Let's pull up the votes of the people who authorized Obamacare. Bernie Sanders, you're on the list. You broke the system. People are now gunning down CEOs. Just wait for some crazy person to ask who broke the system. You're playing a dangerous game, and only Donald Trump seems to be the one to understand this, that these people are sick. They are mentally not well. And when you have a mentally not well, sick person and they come looking for someone to blame, they just might blame the people who broke the healthcare system. And breaking the healthcare system has a name. It's called Obamacare. And the first 2 syllables are someone's name. That guy gets Secret Service protection. What about the rest of you? It's a dangerous, 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 dangerous game you're playing, and you don't seem to care because you think you are invulnerable to the rhetoric. You are invulnerable to it. You're not. None of us are. That's why you have to say firmly and stridently, murdering someone is wrong, period. End of story. No buts. The fact that Democrats can't do that is a damning indictment on them and their mental stability. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. The phone number 877-973-7425. Bob, I'm going to go to you now. You've waited very patiently. It's time for your call. Bob, how are you? Great. Mm-hmm. Gosh. Mm-hmm. I appreciate it a ton. Now, Bob, I want to give you time here. You got about a minute, 30 seconds, though, to get to why you called beyond that, but I sure appreciate that. Maybe we could get some of the progressives out of here too. Say we'll give you $1,000 on a plane ticket. You can go to Paris. Now, though not a bad idea. Of course, the press would have a field day with the economic costs of, oh my gosh, do you know how much it's going to cost to get these people out of the country? Well, yeah, okay. What exactly? That's the side of the story no one in the media wants to talk about is the healthcare costs, the education costs, the food costs, the social service costs, the housing costs, all these costs to keep these people in the country, as opposed to saying, you know what, we're going to send you home now. We should send them home now. It is time for them to go home. And then get in line and do it the legitimate way. You can come back to the country, just you need to stand in line and come back to the country legally, please. Now, I got to tell you about one of the great groups that has common sense conservative solutions on dealing with illegal immigration. That is Americans for Prosperity. They'd love to have you on board. You can go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer and sign up with Americans for Prosperity. If you do, they've got chapters in just about every single state now. In a couple, they don't, but they've got people organizing those chapters, and you would be able to help. And they advocate for common sense conservative solutions on the border, for schools, for families, for small businesses. All you do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. And listen, if you don't want to be a door knocker, if you don't want to be an activist, if you don't want to show up at your local government or your state government to advocate for common sense conservative solutions, you can at least be informed so your friends who are interested in it can come to you and get actual facts and information. Go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. Sign up with AFP. Be an activist in your own community. Be more informed than everyone else in your community. Join up with Americans for Prosperity. When we come back, we got to talk about one of my favorite things to talk about, the Hunga Tonga Hunga volcano. Nobody wants to talk about Hunga Tonga Hunga. I just want to say its name again, but there's a real reason to when we come back. Hello and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here across the nation. If you would please text the word Army, ARMY, to 33777 so you can sign up for the army of activists when we start. We will open it up in January when the new Congress convenes, get people calling to support President Trump's cabinet picks, most of them, not all of them, and more. There is some breaking news I got to bring you up to speed with. Two things happening right now. One is it appears Justin Trudeau will be summoning the Canadian Parliament to resign or prorogue it, meaning essentially send Parliament home. There's only so much he can do without it, but the speculation in Canada is that Justin Trudeau will be resigning. The bigger news is that the U.S. military has launched strikes in Syria, killing 12 ISIS fighters in Assad regime and Russian-controlled areas. The United States has done these overnight already, and now a second one happening about right now, just about 15 minutes ago, launching an attack in Syria to kill ISIS fighters. Essentially, the Syrian rebels have taken over, and a portion of those Syrian rebels are ISIS fighters. Now that the Syrian rebels have taken over, they're like, you know what, we're done fighting everybody now. In fact, the Syrian rebels who have taken over have started fighting Hamas and Hezbollah at the Syrian-Lebanese border. And the ISIS fighters are turning on the Syrian rebels. So the Syrian rebels who have taken over have now asked the United States for further assistance in blowing up ISIS. And so we are helping the Syrian rebels blow up ISIS inside Syria so the rebels can begin a peaceful transition of power. The Syrian rebels, you should note, are also working with Israel to attack Hezbollah and Hamas on the Lebanese border. Pretty impressive. Things that are happening over there right now, largely just ignoring the Biden administration, but they have kindly at least stood up and engaged. Now, NBC News as well reporting 5 dead and 5 injured at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. The shooter there appears to have been a student at the school who is now deceased, according to current press reports. Sad tragedy happening there. Be in prayer for those people. Just as an aside, here we are a week before Christmas, week and a few days before Christmas. Some families have presents wrapped under the tree for a child who is now dead. So whenever this happens, and I see it happening now, I get asked, I mean, how can you believe in a God who would let something like this happen? It happens all the time. 5 kids are dead, as far as we know. 5 people are dead at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. The shooter, a juvenile, is dead. Current reports are that the shooter was also at the school. And as I'm saying this, I just see a report from Tom Winter at NBC News. Madison police are correcting themselves. They said 3 were dead, and then they said 5 were dead. They now say 3 are dead, including the shooter. So the shooter and 2 others, they are not identifying those people, but 3 people dead. Someone already bought Christmas presents for someone who will now not be there. And inevitably, when this happens, particularly when it happens at a Christian school, it's not just social media trolls. It is people in the wild, people in the world saying, how can this be? If there really is a God, surely he wouldn't let this happen right before Christmas at a Christian school. I take this one personally, not because I'm a believer, an evangelical, a Christian, born again, a Presbyterian, grew up Baptist, whatever you want to say. I take it personally because I get this question asked by people who mean well when it comes to my wife, and they say, how could you believe in a God who would give your wife cancer? Not just any cancer, but one for which there is no cure. Stage 4 lung cancer. But you know what, the ones that make me mad? I have an answer for these people. You know the ones that make me mad? And it happens all the time. It's the people who come up to me, and these are people oftentimes in churches. And they say, has your wife tried this? You should research this essential oil or hydrogen. I had somebody tell my wife she should be drinking hydrogen peroxide or an essential oil. The number of people who have insisted that if my wife would take regular doses of frankincense, it would get rid of her stage 4 genetic lung cancer. Those are actually the ones that aggravate me, because those are the people who actually are suggesting in their love and well-meaning approach that, you really haven't done all you can do. If only you had read this one website and taken this one essential oil. Those are actually the ones that make me mad. And they don't mean to be mad. They don't mean to make me mad. But my God, people, do you really think we haven't researched into what can we do to cure my wife of stage 4 lung cancer? Oh, if only we knew about this one essential oil. Oh, those are the ones that infuriate me. And it's always it's never a guy. I got to say this. It's never a man. It's always a well-meaning woman who wants to say, if only you tried this one thing. And they don't mean it bad, but the implication is you clearly haven't done enough research. But when there's a tragedy, the same people show up. The same people show up and say, oh, I guess God's not real. Because if he was real, there's no way he would let this tragedy happen. Within 2 years of the birth of the man we call Jesus, King Herod sent soldiers to Bethlehem, and they murdered hundreds of toddlers, all boys, because men from the east came to Jerusalem to worship the King of the Jews, and Herod thought that was him. And those magi went down to Bethlehem to worship him when we're told, don't go back to Jerusalem, go home a different way. And Herod went to his scholars, and they all said it was predicted that the King of the Jews would be born in Bethlehem. So he sent men there. Clearly, passage of time had happened. He sent people to Bethlehem and murdered all the baby boys up to 2 years old just to make sure he got the right one. And Jesus and his family had been tipped off by an angel and fled to Egypt and was spared. But there was mass murder there. And not only was God real, God ran away with his family as a baby to avoid the mass murder. So I assure you, God is real, and mass murder still happens. Why? Because we live in a fallen world. People are sinful, and there are monsters. But God loves me and you and my wife so much that he came to this planet as a baby, lived an entirely sin-free, perfect existence, and was murdered himself, tortured, beaten to within an inch of his life, nailed to a cross for all the world to see. All the world's sins piled up on him, so much so the sky itself went black. And he died. He loved me so much he was willing to take the slings He was willing to take the stabs. He was willing to take the rocks. He was willing to take the nails. He was willing to take a crown of thorn. He was willing to bleed, and he was willing to die because he wants a relationship with us that bad. He didn't escape the world and all its sin and suffering, and we don't get to either. Bad things have always happened, and bad things will happen. He was born into death, and he died into death. All these people around him died, and then he ultimately died. So when people come calling and they say, how can you believe a God who would allow kids to be killed at a Christian school the week before Christmas or at Covenant in Nashville or wherever it happens? Evil is real. Evil got God. But he loves us so much he conquered the grave. We don't get an escape from this world, but neither did he. I believe that. You may not. But the heckling and cajoling and the belittling of people who just lost a loved one in a school, it's a damning indictment on those of you who asked the question, on your character. We are truly, as Paul said, fools. Christians are. If we believe it and it's not real, because we've wasted a whole lot of time telling people about something that didn't happen, and maybe you should pity us instead of mock us if that's the case. But I believe it's real. I believe it's real. Look, here we have, I was actually going to talk about climate change, but this is our sad breaking news of the day, 3 dead. The reports have been conflicting between 5 dead and 3 dead at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. Police have clarified now and said it's 3, not 5. One of the 3 is the shooter, who is a juvenile who they presume went to the school. We don't know the other details. The details will come. It's bad enough. It could be worse. Those of you at Sandy Hook or Appalachia, you're in my listening audience right now. I'm thinking of y'all too. These stories are always hard on y'all. Those of you down in Parkland, you're in my listening area as well. I've got radio stations in all those markets. Parkland in Florida, Sandy Hook in Connecticut, Appalachia here outside of Atlanta. I know this story will be raw for all of you because of what you went through, particularly at a holiday season, knowing that there are presents under a tree for someone who's not now going to be there to open those presents. It's always tough. It's always tough. And the ghouls come out and they want them, particularly at a school like this, or look at Covenant School in Nashville. And isn't it striking how quick the police were to release Luigi Mangione's letter? I won't call it a manifesto. It was just a 2-page letter on why he wanted to kill Brian Thompson, the insurance CEO, and we still don't have Audrey Hale's manifesto. They've done their best to release it. It's been to not release it. It's been leaked here and there. They wanted to cover that one, and now we've got this awful situation, and all the ghouls show up and say, maybe it was staged, maybe it wasn't real, or your God must mock you to do this at Christmas. God doesn't mock. God is mocked. And those who ask the question are mocking a God who came to earth and died on a cross. He himself suffered because we don't get an escape. My wife doesn't get an escape from cancer, not because there is no God or he doesn't love her or he's punishing her, but it's the nature of this twisted, sinful world. But he will make all things new. I believe that. I do. I believe it outside of Christmas and at Christmas, outside of Easter and at Easter, I believe it. And all the people who ask the question, some of them actually are just perplexed. I've been reached out to by a guy I follow on Instagram. He's an atheist from London. He's like, how can you believe this? It's like, how can I not believe it? I've seen it in my life. It's far easier, I suspect, for an atheist to say random acts, bad things happen just because, random acts, atoms swerving into atoms, causing a timeline that we don't like. I don't believe that's the case. I believe there was a garden and we're exiled from it and we're filled with sin as a result of it, and that sin pollutes our whole world. And God came into the world to make all things new, and it's a slow process over time, working in each of us. And one day he'll return to judge the quick and the dead, and we'll have eternal life with him. And until then, we will never be rid of these terrible stories of tragedy, of a school shooting at a Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin, or at Covenant in Nashville, or at Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut, or at Appalachia High School, or at Parkland in Florida, and all these other other things. And people just want to do something, but no one really at the national level wants to do what they need to do is get down on their knees and pray. Instead, they want to find politics and political maneuverings, and that's just part of our fallen culture as well. We're not going to get rid of these terrible things, but what we can all do is pray for the families of those who died, including the shooter. Here a week before Christmas. But that's bad things happening is not a reason to believe God doesn't exist, but a reason to hope for his return. All right. We got to get out of here. We'll be right back. All right, I feel bad and I don't. It just, my gosh. So remember last week we played you the video on this program. Last week, Clarissa Ward of CNN went into the Sinai prison in Syria, and they found someone who had not left the prison and rescued this person who was under covers, who was seemed to be shell shocked, and he didn't even know the war was over or people had been let out of the prison. It was a big deal. CNN scooped everybody. Clarissa Ward called it one of the most extraordinary moments she witnessed in 20 years of reporting. Well, Verify, which is a Syrian fact-checking group, claims that the innocent prisoner turned out to be Salama Mohammed Salama, first lieutenant in Syrian Air Force intelligence with a long history of war crimes, a major torturer for Bashar al-Assad. I mean, my goodness gracious. So Ward and the camera crew, escorted by a rebel fighter, visited the headquarters of the prison where people were tortured and freed the man under blankets. He gave his name Adel Gerbal and claimed to have been arrested by government authorities 3 months earlier. But it actually appears that he was hiding from the rebels and was able to be sneaked out of the prison because of the CNN team. CNN says it didn't fabricate it, that it actually happened. They're investigating it themselves. But yeah, it appears CNN might have actually helped a torturer for Bashar al-Assad get away from the rebels in doing this. It's become a big deal overnight, and the sorry, just wow. They're doing, my goodness, they're doing what they can now to investigate what actually happened. Oh boy. So anyway, yeah, turns out CNN maybe did not. So there's an account on Twitter that says MSNBC's Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid should actually one-up CNN and maybe bust Ayman al-Zawahiri, federal supermax, do it live on TV. Oh, the jokes write themselves. Poor CNN. They're not just doing it. Maybe they need to give me like an hour and see if I can redeem their ratings. I don't know that I want to do that, though. In any event, we're out of time. We will be back tomorrow. We got to get to the Hunga Tunga Hunga volcano stuff tomorrow. The left is freaking out. You know, this massive volcano blows up, sends bajillions of gallons of water into the atmosphere. And now they're like, we have no idea why the world is warming so fast. 2 years ago when it happened, they said the world would warm fast because of it. They've memory holed it to try to get more money out of the feds. We'll get to it. You guys have a great rest of the day.